Hey, everyone! Welcome back to the Growth Mindset Company channel. Before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to Wisdom Waves Hub, the go-to resource for all things related to FIDIC contracts. The team there puts in a ton of work to make complex topics super digestible. You can check out their in-depth articles at www.wisdomwavashub.com. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most critical but often misunderstood clauses in the FIDIC Yellow Book 1999 Clause 13.1 Right to Vary. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll realize how this one clause can be a game changer in construction contracts. So, what's the big deal about Clause 13.1? In a nutshell, it sets the ground rules for making changes to your project. Think of it as the ultimate guide for when, how, and why your engineer can decide to make those changes. Here are some key components to remember. Timing matters. Variations can only be initiated up until the taking over certificate is issued. Right to challenge. If you're the contractor, you can challenge a variation based on several conditions like feasibility and compliance with U.S. regulations. Financial aspects. Always factor in the financial impacts of any variation. Now, shall at some primary aspects of Clause 13.1. Initiator. The engineer is the primary initiator of variations under this clause. This underscores the trust and responsibility vested in the engineer's role. Timing. Clause 13.1 specifies that variations can be initiated only until the taking over certificate is issued. This sets a defined window for changes, which is crucial for project management. Conditions for challenge. The contractor isn't merely a spectator. They have the right to challenge a variation under certain conditions. This aspect ensures checks and balances in the system. Legal and regulatory compliance. Particularly in the U.S., variations must adhere to various laws and regulations, including building codes and environmental laws. Financial adjustments. Any variation is likely to have financial implications, including changes in the contract price or the valuation of work. This aspect underlines the need for meticulous financial planning and adjustment mechanisms. Now let's look at what are the implications and its interconnectedness with other clauses. One of the fascinating aspects of Clause 13.1 Right to Vary is how it influences and is influenced by other clauses in the FIDIC Yellow Book 1999. You see, construction contracts are like a complex puzzle, and Clause 13.1 is a central piece that impacts multiple areas of the project. Let's break down these interactions for a clearer understanding. Relationship with Clause 1.1.6.9 Variation. Firstly, Clause 1.1.6.9 defines what a variation is. It sets the stage for the entire Clause 13 series, including Clause 13.1. By specifying what changes qualify as variations. This ensures that there's no ambiguity in what constitutes a change, avoiding potential disputes down the line. Symbiosis with Clause 13.2 Value engineering. While Clause 13.1 is more of a top-down approach where the engineer has the power to initiate changes, Clause 13.2 offers a bottom-up perspective. Here, the contractor can propose changes that would be mutually beneficial. Imagine the contractor finds a more efficient material or construction method. They can propose this change under Clause 13.2, which then gets validated and possibly initiated under Clause 13.1. The framework of Clause 13.3 Variation Procedure. This clause can be seen as the operating manual for executing variations. It outlines the steps that both the engineer and the contractor need to follow to implement a variation, from the valuation to the actual execution. It's like the rulebook that comes with a board game. Without it, you'd be lost, unsure of how to proceed. Legal safeguard in Clause 13.7 Adjustments for changes in legislation. Now, let's not forget the ever-changing landscape of laws and regulations, especially in a country like the United States. Clause 13.7 comes into play when there are changes in legislation that affect the project. It provides a mechanism for adjusting the contract price to reflect these changes, thereby linking back to Clause 13.1. which might have been the clause to initiate the variation in response to the legislative change. The financial aspect in Clause 14.3 Application for interim payment certificates. Money talks, right? Clause 14.3 is where the contractor can submit price statements for resources used in variations. So, if a variation under Clause 13.1 leads to additional work and costs, This is the clause that helps adjust the financials. The ethical anchor in Clause 3.1 Engineer's duties. The role of the engineer isn't just to initiate variations. They have to be fair, ethical, and balanced in their judgments, as outlined in Clause 3.1. This ensures that the power to change project specifications is exercised responsibly and equitably, keeping the interests of both the contractor and the employer in mind. The consequential element in Clause 8.4 Variations and adjustments. Finally, any change is bound to have consequences. Clause 8.4 discusses the ripple effects a variation could have on the project, such as timeline delays or cost adjustments. It acts as the lens through which the consequences of variations are viewed and managed, complementing Clause 13.1 by addressing the after effects. In the United States, the interconnectedness of these clauses takes on added significance due to the stringent regulatory environment. For instance, variations need to comply with federal regulations like EPA guidelines for environmental protection, OSHA regulations for worker safety, and various ANSI or ASTM standards for construction materials and processes. Please visit our website to find relevant sample letters and checklists in more detail. Now, we're getting into the details with a breakdown of the sequence diagram and flowchart that outlines how variations are processed. Trust me, this is the kind of stuff that can really help you understand the whole picture. So let's dive right in. Detailed breakdown of the sequence diagram. Engineer's authority. The ball gets rolling when the engineer sends a message to the contractor, initiating changes to the project. Contractor's responsibilities. The contractor isn't just a passive player. They acknowledge these changes and inform the engineer about their stance. Engineer's authority. Next, the engineer takes this information to the employer, outlining the cost and time implications. This is crucial for budgeting and scheduling. Employer's obligations. Now the employer steps in. Based on the engineer's information, they either approve or deny these changes. Engineer's authority. Once the employer makes their decision, the engineer informs the contractor to either proceed with or halt the changes. Contractor's responsibilities. Let's say the changes are approved. The contractor then informs the employer about any additional costs that may arise. Employer's obligations. Finally, if these changes cause delays, the employer can grant time extensions. Detailed explanation of flowchart. The whole process starts with the receipt of a variation request. This can come from either the engineer or the contractor. Check initiation method. Is this change initiated by an engineer's instruction or a contractor's proposal? This decides which subclause we refer to next, by instruction or proposal. Depending on the initiation method, the process either moves to subclause 13.1 or subclause 13.3. Contractor's choice. The contractor can accept or reject the engineer's instruction. If rejected, a notice is sent to the engineer detailing why. Engineer's response. The engineer has three options. They can cancel, confirm, or vary the instruction. Execution. Based on these decisions, the contractor then proceeds to execute the variation. Dispute resolution. If disagreements arise, subclause 20.4 comes into play, referring the matter to a dispute adjudication board. End. The variation process is completed once the changes have been made, valued, and any disputes resolved. Role of Clause 3.5 determinations. Now, what if there's a dispute or disagreement? That's where Clause 3.5 comes in. This clause offers a structured approach for formal determinations, often invoked when the contractor sends a notice rejecting an engineer's instruction. It's crucial to understand how Clause 13.1 interacts with other clauses. It's like a cog in a well-oiled machine, ensuring everything from project execution to financial reconciliation happens smoothly. A huge shout out to www.wisdomwavashub.com for their exceptional research and content that made this deep dive possible. Their dedication is genuinely praiseworthy. So, hit that like button if you found this information helpful, and don't forget to subscribe for more valuable insights. Until next time, keep expanding your mind and your skill set.